pause on this and invite our guests from the RCIPS into the program. First of all, we have PC Jody Ann Barry, who works in the, I believe you're still in the PR department. Is that right, Miss Jody Ann? You have to just unmute yourself. There we go.
Good morning. Good morning,
Morning.
Miss Amy.
How are
Yes,
you?
I'm Jodianne Powery, and I'm the police media officer with the Media and Communications Unit in the
Wonderful.
RCIPS.
Well, welcome to the program, and thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having us.
This is your first time, so we'll try to go easy on you.
Well, it's my second time, but it
Yeah.
is Superintendent Ebanks' first
Yes,
time.
that's
Yes.
right. You came on, was it with NRA before?
Yes, with Miss Pandui.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Now I remember. Okay, beautiful. Then we have acting superintendent, Mr. Brad Ebanks. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Sandra. Thanks for having us.
Yes, they got me a little bit riled up today, but that's all right.
Yes, I was listening.
So good to see you. We really appreciate you guys coming in the program. You know, another issue that's of grave concern to people in this community is the number of traffic deaths that we've had. I think, are we up to number 10 or 11 now? How many have we had for this year?
No, we've surpassed that. We're up to 12,
Oh my
12
God.
fatalities on our public roads for this year.
And that's a
Um,
record, is it not?
it is considerably high for the last 3 years prior to 2022. We've had 9 fatalities. So
And there
that
seems
is a
to, unfortunately,
major concern for us because within the last 4 years, we've had 39 deaths on our public roads.
oh my gosh,
39.
that's horrible. And there seems to be no abatement of this issue. I mean, it just, well, let's talk about it. What is in your mind? I mean, Superintendent Ebanks, I suppose you see a lot on the roadways. What is in your mind the top, if you had to pick the top 3 issues with driving on our roads, what would you say is the crux of all the accidents and road fatalities that you see?
Inconsiderate driving, poor driving habits, speeding, first and foremost, and drunk driving, driving under the influence of alcohol are some of the main contributing factors for accidents on our roadways.
Right. And all of these things are avoidable. All of these things can be addressed by the actual road users themselves.
Yes, yes, very much so.
Wow. So, whenever we talk about, oh gosh, there's another fatality, there's another, drunk driving, another child standing up in the car without a seatbelt or, a child seat. The thing that people always say, well, maybe we need more police patrol. Maybe we need a police officer at every single corner. We're going to turn into police state because we, the people, are incapable of doing the right thing on the roadways. When you hear people saying, we need more people in the traffic unit, we need more police officers out there, what's your response to that type of thinking?
That is true to an extent, but persons need to accept responsibility for their own driving, for their own driving habits. We have increased the police presence in the eastern districts. We target particular key times and locations. We have a good analyst unit that can actually direct us to where the accidents are happening, where the offenses are happening, and those are the areas that we target on a specific days and specific times.
But without the drivers, as you say, taking some degree of accountability, I suspect very little will change except you'll be ticketing more people.
Yes, one of my pet peeves, Sandra, is that we've seemed to have adopted a culture where we have little regard for the laws on our roads. And why I say that is because social media today has really allowed the local community to know within a short period of time when there's a serious accident on our roads. And in a short period of time after that, you still see people driving careless, speeding, erratic driving. When I was growing up, when there was a fatal accident or a serious accident, everyone was so careful on the road for months and even years after that. Today, within an hour, 2 hours after, people are driving like nothing happened.
Mhm.
And that's a serious concern for me.
Mhm. Unbelievable. Well, we know that the elected officials are looking at trying to, I guess, legislatively address some of this. And one of the things that will be coming up, hopefully, in the next House, the next sitting of Parliament, is going to be to reduce or cut in half almost the legal drunk limit, which is actually quite liberal, if I could use that word, in terms of what we allow before you're technically considered to be under the influence. And that is significant because then you'd be able to arrest more people and hold more people accountable. Um, can you tell us a little bit about how drinking impairs your ability to be a good driver?
Sorry, Sandra, you were cutting out there. I didn't
No,
get all the
sorry, I was just
question.
asking if you could tell us how drinking impairs your ability to be a good driver.
Um, so I think that in terms of alcohol and blood alcohol level, I
Yeah.
think the first thing that need to be understood is that alcohol affects everybody differently. And sometimes it'll affect the same person differently on different days. There's no
Mm,
prescribed amount of alcohol that you can drink to say that I've had my limit now.
mm,
I've reached my 100 liters of alcohol per, or 1 liter of alcohol per 100 liters of blood. Like there is no prescribed way of knowing that because it's different for everyone and it's different for even you depending on what your day was like that day. Did you eat properly? Did you, are you feeling ill? It's different for you every single day. So, that being said, what alcohol does is it reduces your reaction time. For instance, if you are a driver, so it, I suppose, makes you feel a little bit more relaxed, and so your reaction to driving is different. It's reduced. So if somebody stops in front of you suddenly, your reaction to make sure that you don't end up in a collision is that much less.
mm.
And it's just one of the ways that you can describe that, the
Yes.
effects of alcohol.
Hmm.
If,
And
if I could add as well,
yes.
it all depends on what you drink as well. You may
Hmm.
drink beer, which is a lot lighter alcohol than say a strong drink. But just to remind the public as well, Sandra, is that while you may not be over the legal limit,
Hmm.
if your ability to operate a vehicle is impaired,
Right.
you can still be arrested.
Hmm.
So just to bear that in mind.
Yes, because that might fall under another offense like careless driving or something of the sort.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Or under the influence of drugs while operating a vehicle. So
Right.
you don't have to be over the legal limit to be
Okay, good.
responsible for your driving.
So we have a comment here from Rocky, bit of a question. He says nobody uses indicators in the roundabouts in the Cayman Islands except for a few. And about 10 years ago, I was pulled over by an officer for not indicating in the roundabout. Why is this no longer an offense? Is it a requirement? I was actually thinking about this a couple weeks ago because I was in Miami and I was driving on, I don't know what interstate that was, but they have these notices up, and one of them says to use your indicator. It's actually the law. Is it the law in the Cayman Islands that you're supposed to use your indicator?
Yes, it is.
Yes, yeah.
And then
Um,
Right.
most people don't.
the thing about the traffic law is that the traffic law is strict liability offenses. And what
Mm-hmm.
that means is that the offense needs to be committed in front of the officer in order for there to be a prosecution. Now, there are certain ways around that, and it's one of the questions that you wanted answered today as
Mm-hmm.
well, where if an offense is committed in front of a civilian member of the public,
Mm-hmm.
and for instance, they have a dash cam and they wish for that person to be prosecuted, then what they would need to do in order for that to happen is to file a police report about the incident, provide the footage or
Mm-hmm.
whatever evidence that they managed to collect, um, and then they would have to give a statement and be a witness in court in
If
order
it
to
goes to
also be
court.
able to.
But
Right.
sometimes just
Well,
providing the information when you call the offender, they're willing to just cop to it and said, yeah, that's me in the dash cam. Yes, I was driving. And so it doesn't necessarily have to go to court from there. So that's a
um,
possibility.
right. But it depends on the complainant's request as well.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So Michael says 90% of the time they don't use an indicator anyway, much less in the roundabouts. I think that this is true. And a lot of times the importance of using one's indicator couldn't be underestimated because when you're driving, if you know what another driver is going to do, you can be a good defensive driver. You can drive appropriately. Of course, you need to be giving people enough space. But I've seen so many accidents happen because people are guessing, where someone is turning, what's happening because of something as simple as you don't use an indicator. It's on the car for a reason, right? So, you would think that more people would use indicators. Now, I think this was earlier this year. There was a criminal trial, not related to any traffic, but the police were reviewing footage and testifying about footage in court about a robbery offense. One of the things the detective said, which I found to be particularly interesting, is he said, this driver used their indicator a lot. Like every time they were changing their shoes in the morning, they use their indicator. He said normally from an investigative perspective, there's two things that we know that either a new driver or a woman, a female driver. So I thought that was interesting that new drivers a lot of times will be more compliant with certain road rules, like using your indicator. And female drivers then tend to be perhaps a bit more compliant than their male counterparts when it comes to that sort of thing as well. Have you made those observations, Superintendent, on the roadway?
I'm sorry, Sandra, you're cutting out quite a bit on my side.
Yeah, I think you might have a
Yeah.
little bit of a I don't know if it's an internet issue but I'm just gonna mute PC Jody Powery for just a second because I don't know if you're picking up on any interference from her, but I was just asking the question if you've made any observations about who will follow the road rules more, because I was just saying that in court, one observation is that new drivers tend to, you do things like use their indicators more, as well as female drivers. And has that been your experience from a traffic perspective?
I wouldn't be able to comment on that right now. I don't have those stats on gender.
Okay.
I'm so sorry, but I couldn't.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
One other question that someone had sent in to me a couple of weeks ago is, do you guys, when you talk about statistics and information, do you collect any information about who is actually involved in a traffic accident, like where they're from, who they are? I mean, obviously, you know who they are, but because the reason this question was being asked is someone said, in their opinion, one of the contributors to all the traffic accidents is that people are coming from certain countries that either they weren't driving previously, so they have no real driving history, or they come from a country that is a little bit lawless on the roads as well. Do you guys keep any of that information statistically?
Our database allows us to put in nationality, and actually, I did ask for an audit a few months back because there were discussions around the same thing, and the analysis showed that actually it was about traffic tickets, that some nationalities were not being ticketed, while some were, and we found that it was not so. It was actually pretty much across the board. In fact, to be honest, it proved that the nationality they asked about particular was actually ticketed more. So, yeah.
Which might mean that does that mean that they're creating more traffic offenses by extension? If they're being ticketed more, one might assume. Possible.
Wouldn't be able to comment on that, but they're being. Yeah.
All right, Jay, we're gonna bring you back in here.
The law, whoever breaches the law, we interview them accordingly across the board. So, yeah.
All right.
We'll deal with you.
Okay.
Regardless of your gender.
Yeah. So we have Jonathan saying that he sees at least 5 accidents a day. What are we averaging at the moment in terms of how many accidents we're seeing on our roadways?
We're averaging about 200 accidents a month. That's
Okay.
what our statistics has shown us. So for
Right.
2022, sorry, for 2021, we had 2,415 accidents, and for 2021 to date, had 1,794.
That's
There
2022
is some
today.
good news. Yeah, yes. So, but there is some good news. So far for this year, up until these stats, uh, upon looking at these stats, for this month we've have 59 accidents.
Mm-hmm.
So if we keep on that trend for
Mm-hmm.
September, we would have around 120, which would be considerably less. Seeing that
Then
we're
the
averaging
200.
200, yeah, 200 a month.
Wow. All right. We do have a caller on the line. Good morning, caller, and welcome to the program.
Very good morning to you. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Walters.
Good morning.
Morning,
Your,
Mr.
your,
Walters.
voice,
How are you?
your voice is recognizable this morning.
Yes, we heard that voice many days.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I could miss the show this morning.
Oh, good. What's your
Yes,
question or comment today?
speaking about signals.
Mm-hmm.
Signals are long enough the road to warn on the motives of your intention. Now
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about possible four-way junction. If you, I always tell students, if you plan to turn left, you should position to the left. Because if you're going, you come from, let's say you come from the glass house and you want to go left, stay left, and you're indicating left, left your position comes from your intention. Your indicator flash to the left, stay left. You can't stay in the center of the road, blocking who want to go straight to the hospital.
Mm-hmm. This is at the four-way junction at the hospital?
Correct.
Okay.
Can you imagine you want to go left and you stay in the center of the road, the indicator flash left?
Yeah. I mean, I don't understand why drivers do a lot of the things they do, to be honest. Okay.
Doesn't make sense.
No,
You're
surely.
indicating left and
Uh-huh.
you're in the center of the road.
Uh-huh.
So you should let your position come from in.
Yeah, absolutely.
As I said earlier, the signals are long enough to road one of the motives of intention.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it.
Oh, all right. I could make Miss Jordan left me this morning.
All right, my dear. Thank you so much.
Have a good day.
Take care.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
All right, folks, 936-2626. That's 936 mobile is the telephone number. If you have, a question or comment for the RCIPS, specifically relating to traffic this morning, please feel free to give us a call. We have Blair with a comment. He says, reckless driving needs to lead to license suspension. Alcohol only magnifies the reckless driving. Go to the stoplight by at pickup every day. You could gain revenue every day. To his point, do we have, I haven't really seen this in Cayman, but I know in the States, you had like traffic officers stationed at all of the schools because those areas tend to be around school pickup time. Very, very congested, and people tend to break the rules coming in and out of areas that they should be taking extra caution because it's actually people's children sometimes getting in buses and trying to cross the street or getting in vehicles. And I hardly ever see a police officer in the vicinity of school pickups. Why is that the case? Like in the school zones?
Well, I'm not sure because I do know that our community officers definitely do monitor school zones.
Mhm.
And I myself, my son goes to Savannah Primary, and I've seen a lot of mornings, either Mr. Matthews or PC Garcia out there with their speed radar guns. Because remember, at the school zones during school time when the lights are on, um, the penalty is doubled and the speed is reduced by half in that area. So speed zones are 15 miles per hour, all of them, during school zone times. And those are indicated by the flashing lights that NRA has so graciously put up there to warn us about it. And so it's $20 every mile over the limit normally, and in school zones is 40. So we are definitely out there. But I will, or superintendent will get back and make sure that we do have a more visible presence in the school zones, especially in the morning and afternoon times.
So we're understanding that there's a little bit of feedback. I'm not sure who it's coming from. So I think Jody, if you can do me a favor and just mute yourself when you're not speaking, because there's some sort of feedback that's coming through and people actually picking it up on the radio and stuff as well. So thank you guys so much for your comment on that. So I'm gonna unmute and then let you mute yourself.
Right.
So,
Okay.
I'll do the
yeah.
same.
So
I'll do the
when you
same.
want to speak, you can just unmute it and jump back in. Superintendent Ebanks.
Yes.
So do you think that we have enough coverage in the school zones?
We should. We should. If it's not happening, certainly I will look into that immediately. As I mentioned, I'm not sure if I mentioned, but we did increase the traffic unit capacity in the eastern districts. And normally we would have had officers at the Savannah Primary School. We've added 2 officers to the Clifton Hunter, and I'm in the process of adding another officer now for East End and North Side. So certainly if those things are not taking place, as mentioned, I will certainly look into that immediately. But that is part of the community policing rule, is to make sure that we have officers in the school areas in the mornings and in the afternoons to not only for safety, but to regulate traffic.
Yes. Okay. Well, hopefully we can see a bit more of that. I mean, we do have an officer on the waterfront every day trying to help direct with traffic congestion because of the cruise ships and stuff coming in. And I think that maybe the schools need to be made a little bit of a priority as well. So good morning, caller. Welcome to the program. Let me unmute you. There you go. Hi, caller.
Morning.
Morning.
I wonder if your guest could talk a little bit about safe distance, because when you try to keep a safe distance in certain places, people fill the gaps so quickly that in essence, in order for you to keep a safe distance, it means you keep falling back in the line because they keep filling the gap. Can you guys talk about that in safe distance a bit?
Yep. So thank you so much, caller. So what is, I don't know if it's in the traffic law, but what is considered a safe distance to be between vehicles when they're driving?
Well, it's not in the traffic law specifically. What it is, though, is in the road code. And the road code is the book that we study whenever we're going to do the driving test to get our driver's license. And in the road code, it says, I believe, please don't quote me to the T. I took the test a long time ago. But I think it says that a safe distance is at least a car length behind the vehicle ahead of you. And in specific weather conditions, especially when the roads are wet, you would double that, or whatever distance is safest.
Okay. All right. So at least one car length. And of course, again, to your point, let me get you to mute yourself again. To your point, weather and road conditions can make a difference. Mr. Brad, we now have fancy cars that try to help you. I've got one of these cars. It's always trying to brake for me. And it just reminds me of how the sensors are picking up that you're getting too close to a car, and the car thinks, okay, you're not slowing down. I need to take control of the vehicle and actually brake for you. So I guess that might help, but there's no substitute for the actual driver being in control of the vehicle. Is that right?
Yeah, some of the new vehicles now have auto braking. So if you're traveling too far, too fast, and you're approaching the vehicle too close in front of you, it will activate the braking system. So that's a safety feature, just in case you're not paying attention, or you've fell asleep on the wheel, or any situation where you're not able to brake in time.
All right, we do have a caller who's on the program. Good morning, oops. So I just want to remind our callers as well. I'll call them back because I know they were there waiting. When you call into the program, just a reminder to please mute if you were listening to it on the radio. Turn that off or completely volume down so that we don't get any feedback from you coming in over the airline as well. Hi, good morning, caller.
Hello.
Hi, good morning, sir.
Yes, I want to clear that up for you.
Oh, yes.
On page 23 of the road code, it says it should be 1 vehicle length for every 10 miles per hour.
1 vehicle length for every 10 miles per hour?
Yes, I don't think so. I know so.
Okay. All
Yes,
right.
Yes.
So if I'm driving 40 miles per hour, I should have four vehicle lengths between.
Yes.
Okay. Wow, that's a lot of vehicle lengths.
Yes, and that doubles when the road is wet.
I think most people are definitely not doing that. Well, thank you so much.
I didn't say so. It's the road code.
It's the road code. Appreciate it. Oh, and by the way, are you not supposed to be getting me a copy of the road code? Someone was asking if.
Check your WhatsApp. It's there.
And okay.
Make sure I'm saying the right thing. Look on your WhatsApp. It's there.
Okay. All right. Yes. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
It's check page 23 on WhatsApp.
On the road code. All right. I'm going to have a look right now. Thank you. So, Mr. Brad, as you can see, I drive on Cayman roadways every single day, and I don't think I've ever seen this road code. And this is something that I do definitely want to speak about because, I returned back home many moons ago, but I never had to take a driving test. I just, I've been driving in the US for a while. So I just converted my license over. Is this part of the reason why some people don't know the road rules and perhaps are ending up in more accidents than they should be?
Quite possibly, Sandra. Some countries, and don't ask me to list them, but you can actually get your license converted to a Cayman license, but it could be a contributing factor.
All right, so I do now have a copy of the Traffic Law 2011 and the Traffic Control Regulations. Thank you so much to the caller for providing this to us, and we can now access this. And it's available in a PDF document. So really, they say that ignorance is no excuse. Jody, sorry, I just need you to mute yourself again for me. They say that ignorance is no excuse. And, certainly when we have all these laws and regulations that are easily available online and can be sent to each other via WhatsApp or whatever, I think it's a fantastic idea to ensure that we avail ourselves of this. And despite the fact that I can admit this morning that I've never read it, I think I should probably take a little bit of time to do so because it would make good sense.
Yes, and everything is readily available online today. So,
no excuse.
Whoever wants to familiarize themselves with the requirements of the roadways, they have access to it.
Yeah.
Everyone either has, I would say everyone has a computer, but everyone today has a smartphone, which is a computer in your hand, actually.
Absolutely. So we see this is the Traffic Control Regulations 2012, and the road code looks like it's the last section. So perhaps we can go through this morning some of the important elements of the road code. But I think it definitely, here we go, the road code of the Cayman Islands embedded right in there to make life super easy for everyone. So again, if you don't know the road rules, that could certainly explain why some of you are simply not following them. So a couple important takeaways this morning. We've already learned that it is the law for you to be using your indicator, and you should be trying to use that. They've got everything in here from, the side of the road that you're supposed to be driving under, moving off with full control, and some other tidbits. So we'll go through some of these perhaps this morning, time permitting. So Live says one of the best ways to prevent an accident is to simply utilize the brakes. I see drivers instantly get an attitude when they're in the right and would rather have an accident happen. So that's crazy. But I think what Live is saying, instead of people just maybe sometimes you got to slam on the brakes a little bit, their position is, well, they're in the right, so they're going to just push their way through, even if it results in them getting hit or being involved in an accident. That sounds a little bit crazy.
A little bit crazy, but it does happen.
Wow. Michael has a question. He says, is it illegal to be driving a vehicle that is smoking like crazy? A lot of them rolling around too. Michael, when I first read your comment, I had to kind of chuckle to myself and I said, well, what's your vehicle smoking? What kind of cigarette is that? But yes, we get your point. So, one of the things, and this is probably outside of your control, I don't know if this is something in the road code or the regulations, whatever, but this is an environmental issue as well. I'm very, very surprised. And I hope that this particular minister, premier, will take this on board as a premier who's really about the environment and sustainability. But I don't know why in Cayman we have nothing as part of the passage of your vehicle that includes an emissions test. Listen, for at least 25 years now, because I remember it being in place before I even left Florida, there was emission testing that was required, and it was meant to address this exact same issue. Some of these vehicles don't have proper exhaust systems. They're spewing out all kind of pollutants in the air, in the environment. And so your vehicle had to meet a certain emissions level before you could get it passed for inspection. We don't seem to have any of that here.
There is an offense. It's called omitting noxious fumes from your vehicle, which is a ticketed offense. So we do enforce that as well.
Anybody ever get a ticket for that? Because I see these buses even. I'm like, oh, they're the worst offenders.
I don't know how many tickets have been issued recently, but we have ticketed persons for those offenses. In fact, I've written a few myself.
Okay. All right. So Rocky says RCIPS could break a record of tickets issued if they place a patrol in each roundabout. So to Rocky's point, one of the major sort of areas that we see a lot of accidents tend to be roundabouts. So can we list the top 5 accident-prone areas on island? Do you have an idea? Definitely the A.L. Thompson's roundabout I think it's technically the Butterfield roundabout, but that has got to be number 1 or number 2.
Well, what we can do is we can give you just a general idea where accidents take place the most. So what we've found is that majority of our collisions take place in the Georgetown area and West Bay Road area of the island. And those accidents tend to take place either during the lunchtime hour or the going home period. So what we find is that it happens when there are a lot of cars on the road and everyone is in a rush. And that coupled with the fact that, again, people don't really indicate on the roundabouts to say where they're going. And as Mr. Walters said, don't keep in their correct lane or intentions by maneuvering their car in that way. People don't know where each other are going, and impatience and discourtesy, and it causes a lot of collisions. So we find that a lot of our collisions, most of them take place either between 12 and 2 or 5 and 8.
So someone's asking me if I can provide a copy of the road rules, which I'm now in possession of. So I'm just going to get a link here for it because absolutely, this is, I mean, everybody, like I said, should have these things readily available to them. And if you don't, surely there's no harm in sharing this information. So let me just get the link and then I'm going to put it in the comment section. Share it far and wide, folks. We all need to know what the rules are and so that we can obey those rules as much as possible. So Doss says, why aren't decoy vehicles deployed and switched out when with manned units randomly to keep drivers honest?
That has been some discussions that we've had in the past, but really has not been finalized. And coincidentally, actually, I thought about that this morning on my way in. There were some persons doing some surveying on the side of the road in the vicinity of the 7 Mile Beach roundabout with the high vis jackets on, and I could see the traffic slowing down. And when I got to the location and I saw that there was someone doing some surveying, and I said, maybe we may need to revisit, that idea. But fully support it. It is a good idea, and I'm sure it will have a positive effect.
Okay. So let me just see if I can get these. Oh, it looks like I need to close the document first. Let me just do that and see if I can get you guys this document. And then, yes, by all means, as I've said, try to share this with everyone. Okay, very good. Right. So we have some questions on coming in from our WhatsApp audience. So one person says, what are the rules for emergency responders? I nearly got hit head on by an RCIPS traffic truck driving in the wrong lane. Now, I always thought that emergency responders had an obligation to follow the same road rules as well, even in the case of an emergency.
Yes, very much so. While traveling or responding to an emergency, we must take into account the safety of other road users. But at the same note, when if you're driving and you hear an emergency vehicle approaching, pull over, safely pull over and stop. Let that vehicle pass until the safety continue on. Certainly, if that incident took place, I would certainly want to hear from your caller.
Okay. All right. Miss Andrea, thank you for your comment. She says Savannah is a nightmare because I have seen motorists speeding in the school zone. So again, looks like we need a little bit more, especially during the pickup and drop off times, a little bit more patrolling. Cameron, good morning. Haven't we been aware and discussed these issues for years? What are the changes needed to make solutions? Well, I think one of the big things, Cameron, is obviously an education of the general population. Because if we're not following the road rules because of, we don't care or we don't know what the road rules are, that is clearly an issue. And, part of the reason why the RCIPS is on here this morning is really just a general plea for people to be guided by the rules that do exist and act accordingly. I think you can have all the rules in the world and you can try to enforce them as much as possible. But if the individuals who are, behind the wheels, the individuals who are on bicycles and riding on the wrong side of the road and, not giving enough car length, like nothing will change, Cameron, unless, as the superintendent said earlier, people take some degree of accountability when it comes to their own responsibilities driving on the roadway. It's a privilege to have a vehicle and to be able to use our roadways and to be able to drive, but that comes with a degree of responsibility as well. So Chevrolet says, but a lot of people don't adhere to those rules by the school zones. And if there were officers stationed there for the whole period of this time. So again, calling for more police presence at the actual school zone areas. Ingrid,
So,
good morning. Yes, sir. Go ahead. No, Superintendent, you can
Miss
go ahead.
Sandra, sorry. Yes, so hence the reason we are here. We are here to talk about the driving habits that we're seeing. We're here to talk about the enforcements that we're doing. Several times a year, you would hear me come on the radio, and you would hear us start to advertise or talk about enforcement operation that we're doing to curtail this kind of driving behavior. But I just want to say it is up to the individual and even their friends and families. So let me encourage everyone that is commenting today to go away and have this as a conversation. Who can we talk to that we can ensure that we've done our part, that when they get in a vehicle, they don't drive carelessly, that they don't drink and drive. Yeah. So everybody has a part to play. It's about safer communities, safer roadways. So rather than having a discussion about maybe where you're going this weekend, let's discuss how we're gonna use the roadways safe this weekend. How are we gonna get home if we're drinking? Do we have an alternative plan? Yep. Let's talk to our kids about not speeding, not driving recklessly. Well, let's do our part.
All right. Would you have another caller to the program? Good morning, caller, and welcome to the Cold Hard Truth.
Good morning, Sandy. How are you doing?
Good,
I
sir.
have a question.
Sure.
Just to find out how accurate are these speed guns and when last and calibrated. Because I have a family member. I get a speeding ticket a couple of days ago. And I am sure something is wrong. Because that person, if I have that person to carry me somewhere, I have to say, slip over and let me drive. And she get a speeding ticket in 57 in her 40. And she don't even drive 40 miles per hour.
Okay.
I am telling you, but her belief system is different. She believes God and things, so she say everything is for a reason. So she does take it and she gonna pay her speeding ticket and she gone about her business again. So we just ask them to see if the gun is calibrated properly and if it's working good. So I'm actually 95% sure that that lady not doing 57 miles per hour.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. So, question is, how often do you calibrate the speed guns? Because this gentleman is swearing for his friend because she always drives slow. That there's no way that could have been her that day.
Our speed radar guns are relatively new, first of all. They have been upgraded, I believe, either last year or the year before. And our traffic department regularly services the radar guns. However, if somebody has an issue with a ticket that they received, be it that they feel that they were given the ticket unfairly, then you have until the day that the ticket was issued to be paid. And on that day, you either have the ticket paid prior or you attend court at 10 o'clock on that day and you can speak to the magistrate and explain why you feel the ticket was given to you unfairly. And then the judge would make a decision in that. So if you do feel like you have been given a ticket unfairly, you do have the option of going to court and explain.
Okay.
That must be back with evidence.
Yes.
That must be back with evidence if you not just you tell the judge that you were not speeding. But just to further answer the question is that our radar guns are very, very accurate. And they're calibrated on a regular basis. In fact, that is one of the requirements before the radars are used. So if there's an unfortunate incident where someone has been ticketed, as Jody said, they have that option of going to court and producing evidence to the magistrate that they were not speeding.
Right. But, okay, another caller on the line. So good morning, caller, and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Sandy. I just wanted to make a comment with regards to traffic policing. Now, I think we all are aware that a high percentage of police vehicles we see on the road are not really part of the traffic department. They are on other duties, whatever they are. But what I would like to say on that score is that I think all uniformed police officers driving police vehicles, they should, when they see a blatant disregard of traffic rules, they should stop the vehicle that is offending, or rather the driver, but and make them aware. Let's say if you see somebody, you're in a police car, you drive behind somebody, you see them making several changes, course changes, either lane changes or anything like that. They never use an indicator. I think you should go ahead of them and say, look, the indicator is there to be used. You don't need to save it till you sell the car. You know, you should use it now. You know, or if they see a vehicle without tail lights, stop them and say, okay, here is a note. Within 24 hours, I want you to come to the police station and show where you got your tail light fixed. And so on. You know, it's just general. I mean, I am not a police officer. I'm not a trained officer in traffic rules, but I know most of them, I think. And you should, you know, any police officer that is in uniform and driving is on duty, they should be observant of people breaking the law, you know, in which impact safety. I mean, with vehicles they may have been able to pass the inspection when they were at inspection, but since then they hit something, and one front light is out along with the indicators, and then the back indicators may not work, or the brake lights may not work, or they don't stop at stop signs. They just keep going. And things like that. And I think if a police officer observes that, should make an effort to stop the vehicle and bring it to the driver's attention. Say, we're watching you, boy. You know, and if you want to keep on driving, you need to do better. And if they catch somebody that is flagrantly, which happens often, by the way, certain type of car, and I'm living on Northwest Point Road. Okay, there's a big bend in the Northwest Point Road. And several people have had serious accidents there. Some people have gotten killed there. Yet every morning when I walk my dog, I see some people thinking they are in the Indianapolis 500. You know, and you know, there's somebody ought to make them aware. It's not always about prosecution. It's just making people aware. Look, we're out there. We're looking. We're seeing. And if you can't behave, we're going to pull you over the side of the road. We take your car key and you can walk home or wherever you're going. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. So lots of questions and comments, folks, coming through this morning. Again, feel free to call in 936-2626. And we do have our viewers online who also have a number of questions and comments. So Miss Andrea says, no, Sandy, you have to do the test. There's no conversion. So let's clarify this, because somebody else said before you can have your license converted, you should have to take a Cayman Islands test. But is that actually the case? I mean, I've been driving for a while now, but I know at the time I didn't have to do anything. I just got a Cayman license.
So I think that it depends on where your initial driver's license is set. There are some countries that are full members of the Geneva Convention and be converted. And then there are others who are either partially, or there are other rules, and they would have to be tested. And by tested, I mean the written test. Written test would have to be done in order for them to be able to convert.
Right.
So
it depends on where you're coming from. All right. Strong Will says, good morning, Sandy. The officer at the port is the best. The dancing officer, well, professional. So people like him. He is entertaining and professional as well. Marshall says, well, now we see why there's so many accidents on the roadway. No one is following the road code. Well, apparently, Marshall, a lot of people don't even know what it is. So Jonathan, I'm not sure what this specific bit was in reference to. So Jonathan says, sounds like to me, whoever is conducting these driving tests needs to be checked up on. Do you guys, Superintendent Ebanks, are you of the opinion that the driving test itself needs to be a bit more stringent? We had this conversation, I think it was last week or the week before, but I found it a bit peculiar that people, like, the same test is given instead of having like maybe 10 or 15 variations of the test that are automated. You know, the computer kind of switches up the questions, maybe asks the same question, but like in a different way. But it seems like it's very much the same test so that people can, you know, take it and fail it and then go back and know exactly what they're going to be asked and go back in and pass it. Do you think that there needs to be more done with the testing, like the written test, as well as the road test, perhaps needs to require more of individuals?
My concern would be with the road test itself,
Mm-hmm.
Sandra. You know, as we know, the theory or the written test is one thing, but the ability to go on the road, negotiate, you know, roundabouts, negotiate intersections, drive defensively, being fully aware of all traffic around is really the true test of what you're going to do if you get that driver's license. So that would be my greatest concern.
Right. So Doss is wondering who controls the lights in the school zone. Are those automated?
Yes, they're automated. They are serviced and monitored by the National Roads Authority.
All right. So Alv Barnes says, are all traffic cars equipped with devices to read the new barcodes? So Mr. Peter brought up this point as well. There was a time when you guys had a separate traffic division, and then that was done away with. And then I think you've now brought it back. But to Mr. Peter's point, can any officer, I mean, I would think so, if he sees or he or she sees you being in breach of any of the road codes or road rules or whatever, does any officer have the authorization to act as a traffic cop and to stop you and ticket you accordingly? Or is that just for the traffic unit?
No. I would be real concerned if a traffic offense occurred in front of an officer and it wasn't dealt with. Yeah, we do have the traffic unit who specifically deals with traffic offenses and investigation of MVAs. But we do have other officers that are trained to use the radar gun in the outstations as well, and Cayman Brac and the Sister Islands. And we do target problem areas, or what we call hotspots for speeding, traffic offenses at, you know, whether it's particular times or particular days. But that's everyone's responsibility, every police officer's responsibility to make sure that any offense, whether it's traffic or criminal, is dealt with appropriately, especially if it's committed in their presence.
And to the superintendent points about any police officers, I was formerly a detective in the criminal investigations unit, and offenses would have been committed in front of me in my plain clothes in a unmarked vehicle, and I would have felt the need to pull over that vehicle and have a conversation, if not to prosecute, but to at least let them know that their driving behavior was not up to par with what it should be. So I do know that, and I wouldn't have been the only detective who would have done that in the past. So definitely any police officer can stop and speak with.
All right. So another WhatsApp question. This person says, has this ever happened? File a complaint and submit the video. Is it a violation to flash an oncoming car to warn motorists in the opposite lane that police are running radar? So I think I can probably help with at least the first question a little bit. So I have submitted CCTV footage before of this was an incident. Actually, there was more than one, but there was one in Savannah where someone coming out of the Savannah gas station came to my left, came around the vehicle, and actually utilized that, like they just created their own lane. And this creates a problem because as a driver, I'm not expecting to see people so blatantly breaking the road codes. So I'm not looking to my left to see if cars are coming. I get into the roundabout and I'm looking to the left from the roundabout, not from like behind me. So I think again, people ignoring the road rules and creating their own lanes and, you know, doing all this sort of stuff really makes it more likely that an accident would happen. Because again, if I didn't see him out of my peripheral vision and he ended up pulling out the exact same time as me, thankfully I was going to be in the right lane coming out of that roundabout and not trying to get over to the far left to go down Hearst Road, because if that was my maneuver, that would have been an accident right there. And again, it's just careless driving. It's someone who doesn't have the patience to wait all of 10 seconds to have their turn coming out of the Savannah gas station. And so I caught that on dash cam footage. Thankfully, my dash cam is a 3-way because it became, quite ironically enough, they were driving a Honda Fit and it was a blue Honda Fit. There was another blue Honda Fit right behind me. So if I didn't realize that there was actually two identical color vehicles, identical make and model, you know, people might have assumed, and I think when we posted it, some people were thinking it was the one right behind me. They're like, oh, well, they have the right to make that maneuver. And I said, no, this is another Honda Fit that bypassed that car and me and created their own lane. So this is where, folks, if there's one thing I would recommend, it is definitely having a dash cam on your vehicle. It can be your saving grace. There was another incident coming out of, this was a couple years ago now, coming out of South Sound, like by that light, you know, those apartments that are right there. I think they're called Sunrise condos or something, like at the end of South Sound as you're coming into the Hurley's roundabout. A mother was coming from the opposite direction, 5 o'clock traffic, like in the evenings, you know, lots of traffic on the roadway. And she actually had an infant standing in her lap, driving the vehicle as she was then turning into that complex. Unfortunately, for some reason, my dash cam footage wasn't picking up or recording at that particular moment. And so when I contacted the RCIPS, they're like, oh, without the dash cam, although I had an eyewitness, a passenger in my car who also saw it, they were not willing to take a statement from the two of us. They were essentially saying that we needed to have the independent dash cam footage, which I thought was a little bit weird, but yes. And we do have a caller back on the line. Good morning, caller. Oops, let me unmute you.
And good morning to your guest.
Good morning, my dear. How are you?
Not too bad. I'm
Good.
thankful for each new day.
Beautiful.
Thank you. This is a question for your guest, and I thank them for being on. Time after time, we've been seeing, mostly in the nights, but even sometimes in the day, that people are crossing with blue lights. Some are green. The other day, I seen night. I seen a car coming towards me or a vehicle coming towards me, and it was like a Christmas tree. Just 3 cars behind that was a police car, and we had just crossed another police car. When is this going to stop? Then in the daytime, I was sitting waiting for the gentleman to just call in, Peter, that's my husband, at Kirk Home Center. Now, the trucks that are coming from the port goes through Borden Road, and they are huge, huge trucks. And I'm sitting waiting there on the steps, and I counted 14. Out of the 14, it could have been the repeat of the 14. But out of the 14, it was 11 breaking the speed limit. Now they have to turn in to Borden Road, and there's cars coming out of the Borden Road, going on the left, going on the right.
Mm-hmm.
And you could hear them grinding down and screeching down. Now, that is a place that government would make a lot of money, because some serious accident, God forbid, is going to happen there. And I'm saying, oh, I could be a watchman for the police. All kinds of things is coming in my mind, and I said, oh my God, I close my eyes to some of that. You know, I don't know whether they are paid by the trip, by the hour, by what, but it's ridiculous because that road isn't wide. That is sort of narrow. There's people walking there as well. So I just want them to know that's another spot that they should check out. Thank you very much. Good show as usual.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. So a lot of concerns about truckers on the roadway. Just 2 days ago, we posted that one of the truckers contacted us and say, you know, people are always complaining about us, but let's be honest, you know, some of these other drivers are just really poor drivers as well. And that dash cam video actually showed someone pulling out a bit of a close call right in front of a trucker. And, you know, truckers need a bit more time to stop. They cannot stop immediately because of the size of the vehicle. And obviously, a lot of times the load that they're carrying as well.
Yeah, a lot of times they're late.
So just a few more questions before we have to let this particular set of guests leave us. And then we have some other guests coming on. So Cameron says, do new model devices, breathalyzers, and speed guns have to be gazetted? Only asking, as I remember someone used that as a defense in court and actually won.
Yes, they are required to be gazetted, and they are.
Yeah. Okay. So the RCIPS learned their lesson with that lost case for sure. Strong Will, it says, good morning, Sandy. People do not respect the pedestrian crossings, and also they be speeding. Even when the light is on, they do not stop. So this is a serious concern because we have had a number of accidents and even on occasions fatalities involving pedestrians where drivers don't see them. They're not paying attention to pedestrians. I know for a fact that part of the problem for that is how roads are designed. Like, you know, if roads are not designed to be pedestrian friendly and really force drivers to be cognizant of cyclists and pedestrians, you are more at risk for being a victim of those types of accidents. Let's take 2 more questions or comments, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. This person says, morning, please ask the police. 2 cars coming down the road, police there with a speed reader. They read a car speeding and stop the wrong car. It's happened to me. So how do the speedometers work if you have 2 cars that are side by side? How does it distinguish the cars in which lane in terms of, you know, which one is actually speeding?
Okay, so the new speed guns, Sandra, are actually capable of picking up multiple vehicles at the same time, and it gives the speed of every individual vehicle. Yeah,
okay.
So they're very accurate. And again, as we alluded to, if the persons feel like they were not speeding, and you know, they have that option of going to court and proving otherwise. But we have top of the line equipment for speeding enforcement. And there was another question
about flashing. Yes.
Sorry.
This is the one about flashing to warn people.
Yes, not that one. There was a question relative to if all the vehicles have the capability of detecting the sticker in the on the dashboard, I believe, or in the windshield. Yeah. So I won't comment on whether it's every vehicle, but our officers are equipped with that device that they're actually able to determine whether your vehicle is licensed, insured, or if it meets the requirements of the roadway from a safe distance. and able to have that real time information on hand.
Mm-hmm. Is it a violation to warn people that the police are up ahead doing speed traps?
Normally we don't.
Yeah,
Go
I think
ahead,
it's
Julie. Sorry.
considered obstructing. But we would just ask people to not do it. And because you have to also play your part in making sure that our roads are safe as
Yeah.
well as police do. And one of the things that we do in order to make sure that our roads are safe is to enforce the law by stopping violators who are speeding specifically, because a lot of our serious accidents and our fatal accidents are caused by excessive speed.
Mm-hmm.
When you see us doing speed traps or just on the side of the road taking speeds, especially on those roads that the public complains about so often, like the RCIPS highway or the CB roads, um, please just allow us to do our jobs, because at the end of the day we're trying to keep all of you safe as well as make sure that ourselves are safe as well.
Yes. And I must say to that point, there was a time when CMR used to post where police were many, many years ago, and we stopped it because what we realized, it wasn't just even a matter of traffic offenses, but a lot of times these police operations end up netting more serious criminals who are involved in other things. So once we recognized the importance of these random stops, we kind of adjusted doing that. So one person says, "Good morning, Miss Sandra. I received a ticket from traffic officer," and they do name them, but we won't name them here, "either by assumption or dishonesty. I was driving, biting my fingernail, and he stopped me and gave me a ticket for using a phone without seeing a phone, and was very disrespectful and ignorant to give me a traffic ticket for a traffic offense that I didn't commit, and wasn't willing to talk in any way. He was just eager to give a ticket and had no reasonability, even though I was complying with everything he says. And now I have to either pay a ticket or something. I don't want to waste a workday in court, which is just a loss. Working people, just a loss for working people in every way. So, but of course, the only way, as you guys have said earlier, to sort of do anything about this is you have to go before a judge and plead your case. And the judge might very well believe that you were biting your nails.
Yes, but let's talk a little bit more about the fact that the caller felt a little bit disrespected by the officer.
Mhm.
In that regard, although we may not be able to do anything regarding the ticket, if you feel that an officer was discourteous, which is definitely not a part of how we're supposed to be conducting ourselves in a professional way,
Mhm.
do have a professional standards unit where you can make a complaint. And if you go onto our website, rcips.ky, you'll find the professional standards unit, their page there, and it'll give you instructions on how to file a complaint.
Mhm. Okay,
As well
very
as
good.
as well as the ombudsman's
Mhm.
office. Sorry, the as well as the ombudsman's office, who takes complaints from members of the public. But we certainly want to ensure that our officers treat members of the public um, in the highest regard,
Mm.
professionally, regardless if they have committed an offense or not. The public still needs to be treated professionally.
Mm.
But having said that, um, I've heard and seen so many, for the want of a better word, excuses
Mhm.
um, that I wasn't doing this, or I wasn't committing this offense. This, I'm not saying that this is a situation here, um, but an easy way to prove her or their innocence is just to provide their phone details
Mhm.
to the magistrate to show that she wasn't, or they were not on the phone at the time. Um, but I would want to say that all drivers just make sure, because what phones are one of my pet peeves.
Mhm.
Um, going home from work, I count 10 cars, and out of those 10 cars, 5 people are on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a problem, and it's a contributing factor to a lot of the accidents that we have because people are not paying attention.
Yeah. Yeah, even if you're hands-free, mentally, if you're really involved in a conversation, it takes
Yes.
your attention off of the roadway. So we do have another member of the community says regarding replies to cost of speeding tickets at schools. How long does it take for a speeder to be processed through the court in order for the public to hear the fines and curtail the speeding? So, I mean, I don't think you guys have any control over court listings and stuff, but what's
Well,
been your experience?
in terms of the tickets and the fines, um, for school zones, it's $40 per mile over the limit that you go.
Mhm.
So, and the speed limit for school zones are 50. We have a maximum of $500 that we can give a ticket for, and anyone who exceeds that $500 limit, then they automatically warned for intended prosecution. A traffic offense report is completed, and they go to court either for the speeding or, in certain cases, for dangerous driving. In these instances, usually it would mean that the person would be summoned to court and it's convenient to the court. But what that does mean is that those persons who go to court for the excessive speeding over the $500 limit or for dangerous driving, they may end up being disqualified for a period of time in addition to
Mhm. All right. Vanessa's asking who's the community officer for West Bay. Do you have a list anywhere in your website of who the community officers are for the various districts?
Absolutely, but what we will be doing is we will be sending out an updated list because there were some changes to the community policing department unit. But one of the community police officers for West Bay is PC Franklin, and another one is PC Joel Ebanks. You can call the West Bay Police Station 949-3999 to get in contact with them.
Okay, folks, let's start to wrap up. JD says, oh, please, I've taken a complaint up to the ombudsman regarding one of a traffic officers harassing me in my own yard. And to this day, I get a complaint. I think you meant I didn't get a response. And I wonder why the public has no faith in you. Oh, he's meant to say I didn't get an apology. JD, did the ombudsman's office reach out to you with their findings? Soka has a very important question here about tickets for handicap parking spots. We put them up all the time as jackasses of the day. Now, I remember some years ago, the commissioner said that photographic evidence of someone parking in a blue spot and a handicap spot would be sufficient for ticketing purposes. But are you guys actually doing that? Because I don't think it's happening.
Again, it's photographic evidence along with a statement. But we definitely do ticket wherever we see violations. We didn't come with those numbers today, but we can provide them to you at a later time.
All right. Well, yeah, that's one of the pet peeves that people continue to disrespect the blue spot. Well, acting superintendent Brad Ebanks and the communications rep PC Jody Ann Powery, as you guys can see, you're very popular. Lots of comments and lots of phone calls today for you. So hopefully you will not be strangers to the program and you'll find your way back to us sooner rather than later. This is a continuous conversation that we need to have about the road code and safety. And, we've had, I think, what is a record number of deaths on our roadways so far for 2022. And the year isn't even over. It's only September. So, we're coming up into the height of the holiday and the Christmas season. We know that the National Roads Authority, when they were on last week, Thursday, put out a plea for private sector to get involved because at the moment there is no sort of road safety board or commission or organization or whatever. So I think that could certainly make a difference, making the media circus, if that's how it's said, but you know what I mean. You go around to the different media houses to educate people, educate the public. If you're a new driver, if you're an older driver, make sure that you familiarize yourself with the road codes and the rules here in the Cayman Islands, and then just take a little bit of time on the roadway. I don't know why y'all in a hurry to get nowhere. I mean, literally, I've seen people speeding and cutting in traffic and using the middle lane, and they get there like 30 seconds earlier. And I'm thinking,
Or
was that
less,
even
or
worth
less.
it? Or less, because then they might end up in an accident as well. So any final thoughts this morning before we bid you adieu?
Jody, you first. I'll go after.
Sure. We traffic and road safety is a priority for us. It's always been a priority for us. Um, Growing up in the Cayman Islands, we lose so many people to road fatalities every year, friends and family, and it affects all of us, even people who only live here for a short amount of time, get attached to the friends that they make here, and we want to make sure that everybody gets home safe at the end of the day. So encourage is that we encourage the persons that we love, especially, to make sure that they use the roadways properly, and that they don't speed and they don't drink and drive, and they don't have poor driving habits that will put themselves and others in harm. And um, if you are a passenger in a vehicle where somebody is driving recklessly, don't just sit there. Say something. Make them aware that they're making you uncomfortable because of the way that they're driving. And again, on our website, rcips.ky, we have the capability to receive media files such as videos and footage. And even if you don't want to provide that statement and go the extra mile in terms of securing a prosecution for that particular offense, what we can do is we can use the information that you submit as a way to gather information to know where the offenses are taking place and the time that these offenses are taking place, so that we can tailor our patrols and our strategies to fit the offenses taking place. I want to thank everyone who so far has been submitting information um, to us and doing their part in making sure that our roads are kept safe.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jody. And then just to echo Jody's comments there. If the person who has collected the evidence or sent us the photos, if they're not willing to assist us in a prosecution, we also have the option of contacting that person to say, hey, you were seen committing a traffic offense today, or whenever the incident happened. Just want to know that we are aware and the public is watching. And sometimes that is a deterrent, for people to not break the law. But just to wrap up, I want to say we did a quick count on the disqualified drivers yesterday, Jody and I. Just not an accurate statistical report, but we have somewhere in the region of 600 disqualified drivers in the Cayman Islands. Most of those offenses: driving under the influence of alcohol, speeding, no insurance, and even driving whilst disqualified. So we do have a considerable amount of persons that are actually on our disqualified list. So what we continue to discourage: drunk driving, speeding, and certainly if you've gone before the court and been disqualified, do not drive. We've seen persons actually sent to prison for breaching a court order, which is not to drive. You mentioned.
Sorry, I was just wondering, is there any way to make that
Sorry?
list public, the disqualified drivers list public?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't think that we would extend that out to the public.
Because we could certainly help you when we see,
I'm
Bobo
sure you
next
could.
door driving.
I'm sure you could.
You're like, hello,
you could.
police, he's not supposed to be driving.
Yeah. But I would say for almost every disqualified driver, there's a friend or family member that knows you're disqualified. Yeah, so do their part. whether to tell a person, no, you're not supposed to be driving, or if that doesn't work, then you have a responsibility to pick up the phone call and say, look, this person is driving and they're disqualified. Because the chances are, if they've been drinking and driving, or have been prosecuted for driving under influence, they're probably doing it again. And we know that drunk driving is a major contributing factor to our fatal accidents. And you alluded to that we're in September, and normally we haven't gotten to the end of the year, and we're already at 12 fatal MVAs. That does not include the incident at the speedway, which is not, an accident, a fatal accident, so to speak, on the public roads. But normally we see an increase of these unfortunate incidents as we approach the end of the year. So we're starting our campaign early, and we want to say to the public, make it your business to make our roadways safe. This includes Sunday brunches. We see that Sunday now has quickly turned into a day of drinking as well. Whether it's brunches, boat partying, going over to the eastern districts and consuming alcohol. So we're targeting all of those areas for persons who commit these offenses, all trying to ensure that our roadways are safe. So we want to start instilling that from now, that mentality from now, that we take this very seriously. Road fatalities are our greatest death issues in the Cayman Islands compared to any other incident. So it is a priority for us, without a doubt. And it should be a priority for everyone within these islands. Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Any opportunity that we can get to make our roadways and our communities safe, we will embrace. Thank you for having us on Cayman Morning.
All right. So we've got Joseph, who says a lot of people driving around without a license, and he knows that for a fact. This person who complained said that they're going to be contacting the ombudsman's office to be reporting that officer. So remember that officers have to follow the rules too. They're not above the law just because they're a police officer. And we have someone in Florida who shared this, saying that their county, this is Polk County Sheriff's Office, puts out this publicly every single month, the DUI arrests. And as we can see, this is May of 2020. They had quite a few people in here. They give you the mugshot and the names. This is not a bad idea, because I've seen people in court who've had multiple DUI arrests, and they're still out there again. There was an accident a number of weeks back in South Sound, pretty much a head-on collision. The lady who was driving works at one of the accounting firms. I believe it's KPMG. And guess what? Again, out drinking after brunch or whatever she was doing on Sunday. That evening, she had a head-on collision with some tourists. And that was her second DUI. So I think we need to start, in my opinion, if someone is here and they're on a work permit and they're getting DUIs, that should even be attached to their work permit, and potentially means that you don't get to remain in the Cayman Islands. Although it's only a traffic offense, it becomes more than a traffic offense once they take an innocent person's life. So I think that there's a lot more, certainly, that we could be doing. So thank you so much to both of you for joining us on the program today.
Thanks for having us, Sandra.
All right, folks, let's take a quick commercial break as we transition into having our next guest join us. And by the way, if you find yourself in a traffic accident, pay very close attention to this next message.
Recover Personal Injury Attorneys, helping injured people get what they deserve. Did you know that insurance companies have lawyers that represent their interests? Before signing and accepting any settlement, know your rights. Call us today for a free consultation at 924-9999. That's 924-9999. Recover. Your personal injury attorneys are on standby to assist.